Okay, first thing is take the top off. So there's a screw here which you undo, one here, and then you knock it back, and then it will lift off completely. And then next we're going to take the door off and lie the whole machine down on its front. First thing to do, we're going to lie the machine on its front, so the easiest thing to do is take the door off. So I'll just undo these 4 bolts. The bracket goes through a slot and round the back that the bolts are going into, so you might, when you put it back together, you might need someone to push on the back. Filming. Okay, so this is bolted on to the drum from the back with 3 screws here. So we'll just loosen them and change it. Okay, so that's the good one. This is the old one, and that's the problem. It's just come off because it's cheaply made. So that's going in the bin. The front of the drum you might think runs on some sort of rollers or something, but no, that would be far too sophisticated. It actually runs by rubbing on these plastic strips. This is a replacement one, and they're mounted here, here, here and here, and they click in and slot down with these lugs on the back. Obviously they have to not break free, otherwise the whole thing will jam up. Right, this is a really old Dyson. It's got the great big monster motor that's been banned now, and it doesn't spin at 100 million RPM like the new ones. It's just brute force, but it's really good, it works, so I keep it running forever. Moved the one-wheel motorbike out of the way so you can see this a bit better. Angle grinder, we're just going to grind the surface off this so it welds nicely. Hobby MIG welder, just going to weld around here. That's good. I feel like that Colin Firth guy. Okay, so now the new one's on, and we're going to reassemble the whole thing. This is the plan. I'm going to put a bit of high temperature CV joint grease on this, molybdenum grease, to see if it helps the bearing last longer. I'm going to pick the whole drum up and I'm going to put it in here so it overlaps this edge all the way round, and it's hard to film this, but it's got to go over this edge, and so it's resting on these pads, the rubbing pads I was talking about earlier on. So there's a little tiny gap here which the edge of the drum needs to go down into, and an assistant is going to lift this back panel up a bit so I can get the drum in, and then this bit here, the bearing, in theory is going to pop back through here. It's like a phosphor bronze bush as we put the back panel back down onto the drum. because the whole machine, if you remember, is lying on its front at the moment. That's the plan. Let's see if it works. So here, right, I've got the drum, got the back panel lifted up, the drum's half in, and I'm trying to put it over this curved surface here. Okay, so we'll see how we get on. So now it's in. It's a bit wobbly because I haven't put the back bearing through here yet. Notice I've got the belt around the drum, but it's not over the motor pulley at the moment. Otherwise we'll lose the belt and it'll all get tangled up in all those gubbins under here at the front. So the next job is to wiggle it round and get the bearing to come through here. In the kit you get this little bearing here and this washer. I think they're for a different model, so they're just there to confuse you. So we'll put those out of the way. My old bearing wasn't actually worn out. The actual stud part had come detached from its mount, so I'm going to save this for a future repair which will no doubt be required in a year or so. This back panel needs to be underneath this lip here, so once you've done that, then you'll find these need to slot down. They're like locking tabs, so if you can see that, you see how that, watch that there, comes down and locks itself on like the old really early MFI wardrobes that clipped together with no screws. That's how they used to work, and that's probably why they wobbled. But there are some locating screws as well to follow. So we've got lots of little screws all the way along, one here, got one there in the bottom corner, there's some more along here, but before we put this side on we've got to put the belt here, goes around the drum, around the motor here, see, there we are, motor spins, and we've got to put the back cover on, the fan on, and the back cover. And once you put the back cover on, the cable comes through here and goes to that plug. So we've got to do those before we put the whole side on this side. So here we're going to put the fan back on with 3 bolts and a ratchet spanner, and then we'll put the cover on, and then we'll start connecting up the motor. Okay, so we're going to put the cover on over the fan, but that has to go through this hole there, and then this will go across here like that. And while we're at it, we might as well do this up. Okay, so fan covers on. One of the things to remember is when you put the back plate on is make sure this tube lines up. It's the waste air tube out the back of the machine. That's got to line up with this hole. The final thing we've got to do is make sure the belt goes round the drum and over the motor pulley in there. Okay, it's a bit of a tight squeeze to get it on, but there you are, it's on the motor pulley, and when you do that, try not to chop your fingers off at the same time. So now we're going to put the side panel here back on, put the whole machine back upright, and then put the top on. Now I'm going to put this side back on, and you can see, to help you, there's some locating tabs at the bottom, and then it'll go over the back plate. The tricky bit is down here on the underside, where these tags have to go through these holes and up to grip them, so it's a bit of a fiddle. And then when you've done that, you put a row of screws in here which will hold it on. So here's a saucer full of screws. This thing is called a manual screwdriver. As you can see, it's not electric. The sides on with a bit of fiddling. So what's left to go? There's the thing here that looks like a bit like a castle nut on a car. That goes there. And then there's the split pin type thing, which is just a piece of wire. It goes through the hole across here. and then there's a cover plate which just goes over the top, and then it's ready for a test. Okay, now we put the door on. I'm just doing the 4 bolts up again. As I say, sometimes to get it started you might need someone to push on the back, because the brackets that hold the door actually go through a slot and are located at the back. Oh, it's not making a squealing, grinding noise. Great.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So the lid goes on like this, down, and then you slot it forward like that, and then there's a screw here and a screw here which hold it.